Hello everyone, in this video we're going to go over the review sheet of plant part 2. The first question is, how can a seedless plant reproduce? So if you go back to our PowerPoint or your notes when we first learned about this, the mosses and ferns, which are both seedless plants, they all reproduce using something called spores. So those are the reproductive cells of those mosses and ferns, those seedless plants. The second part of the question is, how does the reproduction of mosses and ferns need water? The answer is yes, which is also shown on this picture right here. Mosses and ferns need water for fertilization. So those spores don't travel very well in wind or in air, but water is a necessary medium in order for reproduction of these plants to happen. The second question is, what are the two types of organs seed plants rely on for reproduction? So there are two types of seed plants. There's the gymnosperms and there's the angiosperms. The gymnosperms reproduce using cones. So there are those female cones and male cones right here. Those are the cones. As you can see, this is a male cone, this is a female cone. So the cones have the reproductive cells. The female cones have the eggs, the male cones have the sperm, and when the wind blows, the sperm cells meet the female egg cells. That's how reproduction happens for those gymnosperms. And then we have angiosperms. Those angiosperms are also seed plants, meaning they end up producing seeds in order to come up with the next generation. So those seed plants that are called angiosperms, they reproduce using flowers. So with the flower, we have the pollen, which is the male reproductive cells, the sperms, and then there's also the female reproductive cells, those eggs, inside the ovary of the female flower, of the flower. So that's the reproductive cell of the flower. So as you can see, this is the ovary, and these are the pollen, and that's the male cells, and these are the female cells. Okay. The next one is called, what is the asexual reproduction / cloning of plants called? So there are a lot of plants that can reproduce sexually and asexually. The asexual reproduction of plants is called vegetative propagation right here. Vegetative propagation. And how it works is just like this picture. You have one plant where a part of the plant, whether it's a part of the stem or a part of the root, it will extend over to another part of the soil, and this will grow into a new plant. And this new plant is identical to the old plant. Next question is, pollen grain is a male gametophyte. This is something you have to know. Pollen is the male gametophyte. Gametophyte is, the reason why we call it gametophyte rather than gamete is because plants often have phases of gamete, the one-end phase versus the diploid two-end phase. And for plants, the gamete phase, the one-end phase, is called gametophyte. So pollen grain is a male gametophyte, you should know that. What mechanism allows for the completion of pollination of the gametophyte? It's basically just the pollination process, which is right here. So the wind, insects, or other animals allow the completion of pollination, where the pollen is brought to this part, stigma of a plant, and then the pollen can travel from the stigma all the way down to the ovary, so that the sperm and the egg can meet in the ovary for the seeds to be produced in the ovary as well. The next question that we're talking about is, what is the function of a seed coat? So the seed coat is like your coat, it's right outside of you. So the seed coat is to protect the embryo inside the seed, right? The reason why we have a seed is because, instead of just sperm and egg, the spores, it's because the seed produces nutrients and some water, and a protection for the embryo. So it's really good to have if the land plant is not next to water. So that's the function of seed coat, is for protection of the embryos. What is the function of endosperm or cotyledom? That is the food part of the seed. So it's to produce nutrients for the embryos to grow when it needs to. What condition allows the growth of embryos? Well, you need to have good sunlight, water, nutrients. That's pretty much it. What are the seeds / fruits? Where are the seeds and fruits produced in an angiosperm flower? So that's the ovary of the flower, the part where the stigma in the middle, and then the bottom part is the ovary. That's where the egg is, and that's where sperm is going to end up traveling to in order to produce the seeds and fruits. Part is, what is the function / advantage of flowers during plant reproduction? So the good thing about having flowers is we have those petals that can attract pollinators, so that allows the pollinators to bring the pollens over to the ovary so that pollination can happen. And then what is the advantage and function of fruits during plant reproduction? As I mentioned earlier, fruits provide the embryo, the plant embryo, a protection, so the seed coat. Oh no, that's not. So the fruit, just kidding. So we're talking about fruits, not seeds. So the fruits help with plant reproduction because it helps dispersing the seeds. So when animals eat the fruit, they're trying to eat the fruit. They're not really trying to disperse the seed, but when the animals digest and then eliminate the leftovers of the fruit, it helps disperse the seeds into other areas, all around the area. All right, that's all for this video. I'll see you in the next video.